Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago's Opposition's Media Briefing. This Sunday, the 11th of August, 2024, the PNM disasters and UNC solutions, property tax, fuel imports, dengue, and hospital failures. Today, our presenters are Senator Wade Mark, the leader of opposition business in the Senate, and Dr. Lackram Bodoe, Shadow for Health. Thank you for joining us. We will begin our broadcast shortly. In the meanwhile, please share the live.
Everybody now, let's go. Come on, come on. Hey. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, yeah, yeah.
It's time to make a difference. It's time to turn that page. We got to do the right things if we want brighter days. Cause things ain't getting easy and the road ahead is tough. It's up to you and I to make the madness stop.
Every day the things getting harder, and every day the things getting rough, and every day they hike the food prices and they implementing more tax. For the sake of our twin nation and the youth of the next generation, let's stand united, show we not divided. Let's show them now and send them a message now.
Show them that we're the voice of hope.
Send them a message now.
Show them that our country ain't no joke.
Send them a message now.
Show them that we're the ones who care.
Send them a message now.
Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. From a distance, look at the picture. Tell me what you see. An abstract of destruction to destroy you and me. We got to do the right thing. We got to make that move. Cause if we don't act fast on this, we're the ones who lose.
Every day the things getting harder, and every day the things getting rough, and every day they hike the food prices and they implementing more tax. For the sake of our twin nation and the youth of the next generation, let's stand united, show we not divided. Let's show them now and send them a message now.
Show them that we are the voice of hope.
Send them a message now.
Show them that our country ain't no joke.
Send them a message now.
Show them that we are the ones who care.
Send them a message now.
Oh, 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 yeah, yeah.
Make sure the talk is done now. Time to start back the work now. All the talk done, all the talk done.
Work nation.
We fed up by these people and all the bag of lies
Tell them, Ahmed.
and everything that they're doing wrong, they're trying to disguise.
Vision.
Always pointing fingers, never wanna take the blame. We frustrated now, don't want no more, and we ain't taking it again.
Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause we're sick of them and the lies. Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause the country needs to shine. Talk done.
Let's get to work again. Come on, people, you know it's true.
Talk done.
Let's get to work again, cause the UNC works for you. Come on.
From there we start the engine. UNC have the plan to build a brighter future for our Twin Island.
Come on everybody, and you know it's true. It's time to start work again and the UNC works for you.
Work nation to the world. Come on.
All these years of pressure, agony and pain, but we woke
with them, and we cope with them, and we feel the blunt of the strain.
Now we the people start crying out, we can't take it no more. So election day when you ink your fingers, you ain't see you're voting for.
Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause we're sick of them and the lies. Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause the country needs to strive. Talk done.
Let's get to work again. Come on, people, you know it's true.
Talk done.
Let's get to work again, cause the UNC works for you.
From there we start the engine. UNC have the plan to build a brighter future forward Twin Island.
Come on everybody, and you know it's true. It's time to start work again, and the UNC works for you.
Work nation, this is how we work. Come on. Tell them what we do.
We don't talk the talk, we just walk the walk. We don't make no joke when it's time to work.
Katrina,
We don't talk the talk,
what you say?
we just walk the walk.
Tell them.
We don't make no joke when it's time to work. Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause we're sick of them and the lies. Talk done. Let's get to work again, cause the country needs to strive. Talk done.
Let's get to work again. Come on, people, you know it's true.
Talk done.
Let's get to work again, cause the UNC works for you.
From there we start the engine. UNC have the plan to build a brighter future forward Twin Island.
Come on everybody, and you know it's true. It's time to start work again, and the UNC works for you. Talk done, talk done, talk done, talk done, talk done.
Work nation.
We stand united in the belief that if you empower a community, the community empowers the country.
We are the party that gave every child a secondary school education since 2001.
By building more schools in 11 years than others did in 40. We believe that no child,
Rich or poor, should be left behind.
which is why we give every Form 1 student a laptop to expand their minds and their dreams.
We are the party that put police cars back on the streets.
And gave the police a $1,000 bonus because we believe that we should support the persons who are protecting you.
We are the party that reduced the murder rate to its lowest in 14 years. We expanded GATE, stopped the property tax, and increased maternity leave.
We are the party that invested in you and your community by investing in schools, community centers, lighted parks, 24-hour health centers, and the most extensive road repair program in decades.
We believe that education is always the solution and that no one should have to pick between sending their child to school or buying food.
We are the party that works for you. We are the first responders in every situation, working to deliver a better standard of living for you and your family.
And most importantly, we have confidence in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a campaign, it's a movement based on building communities and strengthening families.
Come out and join us, and together we will get the nation working and moving again. Our children will once again have access to GATE and technology.
We will improve healthcare.
By cutting the time it takes to see a doctor in an emergency, we will establish a senior citizen unit in every major hospital and staff the hospital with the doctors and nurses you need to create a first-class healthcare system. We will focus on creating high-paying jobs, fixing our laws to remove red tape, and ensuring that you and your family are safer. We will reduce corporate taxes to jumpstart the economy, create a special investment zone along the East-West corridor, and work with entrepreneurs to build a digital economy. This is an investment in your community to move the nation forward and get TNT working again.
Whether you are from 4th Street in Barataria to Railway Road in Dow Village, from Green Street in Tunapuna to Clark Road in Dibay, from La Hokita to Moruga, from Mayaro to Scarborough, We are one people with the same dreams of a better tomorrow. And when we stand together, we win together. We are UNC and proud.
Good morning, members of the media. Good morning to the people of our beloved Twin Island Republic State. Welcome to the United National Congress media briefing being held at our headquarters, Mulchan Suchan Road, Chaguanas, Trinidad and Tobago. We welcome all our overseas viewers and listeners to this media briefing. On behalf of the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessa, our illustrious and esteemed political leader, who we fully endorse and support the entire membership of our party, and I dare say hundreds of thousands of citizens in our nation. Under her leadership, the party has continued to do extremely serious work as we prepare to take the reins of governance and government in the coming months or weeks or even days. We have been out there doing pre-budget consultations throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad. Over 26 to 30 of these consultations are taking place and continue to take place. We have been mobilizing and organizing our party to ensure that all the soldiers and warriors are prepared for the political war that we are about to embark upon against this cruel, evil, and criminal gangster PNM regime in the coming days, as I said. So we would like to make it very clear, unlike those who are singing for their supper in Trinidad and Tobago, that our leader continues to do extremely powerful work and continue to inspire and motivate not only our party, but the country as a whole. Brothers and sisters, let me also take this opportunity to extend warmest greetings and congratulations to Pan Trinbago and the entire steel band community and fraternity as the world celebrates World Steel Pan Day. Today, Sunday, August the 11th, the United National Congress wishes to extend to Pan Trinbago and all the pioneers, all the steel bands in our nation, our warmest heartfelt congratulations, to the point where we have been recognized by the world body. Never forget, the only musical instrument, which is our national musical instrument, to have been created by the ordinary people of our great nation in the 20th century, came from Trinidad and Tobago. The ordinary people of Trinidad and Tobago gave music through pan to the world. And we want to really warmly congratulate all our pioneers who have gone before and who are still laboring to give the world music through pan. We say, happy World Steel Pan Day to each and every one of you as we celebrate that very important day today. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, today we continue to enlighten, edify, and provide our people with knowledge on the happenings in our nation. There is a disaster called the PNM, and they are only producing more disasters. The only solution to those disasters is the United National Congress. And that is why we have been here laboring in the vineyard for 9 long consecutive years, standing in the gap between this thieving, lying, and corrupt administration, undermining all our fundamental rights and freedoms, undermining our institutions and our Constitution. We are here to safeguard, protect, defend the rights of every citizen in our nation. So this morning, we are going to address the dreaded and draconian property tax. And we're going to call again on this wicked and evil government to halt, to stop, to discontinue this wicked and evil property tax. And we give you the assurance today, when we return to office, whether you call the elections in November, in December of 2024, whether he calls it in March of 2025, or in August of 2025, or November, it does not matter. Once we are returned to office with your support, we give you the undertaking this morning that we shall repeal that dreaded draconian property tax and have it replaced by another law, which is the Old Land and Building Act of Trinidad and Tobago. We give you that assurance and that commitment. So we are going to deal with the property tax. We are going to deal with fuel imports by Paria and the leakage of vital and crucial foreign exchange that you and I and small and medium-sized businesses cannot access, because the third largest user of our foreign exchange is the Paria Fuel Trading Company. We will talk about that. And we will also be speaking to you about the dengue plague. If the bullet misses you, dengue will catch you. That is where we are today with this incompetent regime. They cannot even help the people to fight off something like dengue that is plaguing our nation. And of course, we have the hospital failures and deaths mounting as a result of this development and tragedy affecting our country. So, brothers and sisters, welcome to our media briefing. And it is my honor and distinguished pleasure to have in our presence today a very committed, loyal, and dedicated and honorable member and soldier in the army of the UNC, a doctor by profession, former chairman of the Southwest Regional Health Authority, the distinguished and honorable Dr. Lackram Bodoe. He will address the entire issue surrounding dengue, hospital failures, mountain deaths, and of course, some of the possible solutions to address these issues. I now welcome Dr. Lackram Bodoe, the Honorable, to address you at this time. Dr. Lackram Bodoe, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Senator Wade Mark, the leader of the opposition business in the Senate, stalwart of the United National Congress, and a champion of the so many causes of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to members of the media. Good morning to citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm very happy to join you this morning to raise some of the issues with regards to the health sector. As noted in Senator Mark's opening remarks, there are many issues facing Trinidad and Tobago, and in fact, we are now entering the 10th year of this PNM government coming to office. And we can say that having spent close to $60 billion in the health sector, citizens continue to suffer on a daily basis as they try to access medical services, sometimes very basic medical services, at our nation's public health facilities. Stories of long waiting times in accident and emergency departments, long waiting times for beds, long waiting times for many surgical procedures, long waiting times for investigations such as CT and MRI, and the shortage of drugs continue to be reported by citizens on a daily basis. Nothing has improved over the last 9 years with the PNM at the helm of the health sector. In addition to not being able to manage the routine running of the health sector, this government has proven itself to be incompetent and unprepared to face the challenges of crisis situations. Many citizens paid with their lives due to the lack of planning and definitive action by this administration during the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, many are wondering if the same is happening with the current dengue outbreak. So let me move on to the current dengue outbreak and raise a few concerns that I'm sure are shared by many, many citizens today in Trinidad and Tobago. Yesterday's Trinidad Guardian headline read, 2 more dengue deaths. So people are very concerned, of course, with the deaths that are occurring from dengue. We are now told that the fatalities are 8, and the spiking cases are at 712. I'll come back in a while to discuss these figures and, in fact, whether the true picture is being given by the authorities. So the question has to be asked, is this government really doing its best to minimize deaths from dengue? Or has it again dropped the ball, as it did during the COVID-19 pandemic, as evidenced by the findings of the Seamongal report? I also want to ask today, did the government ignore an early warning? On the 23rd of November 2023, CAFA, well-recognized Caribbean agency, in a release, urged its member states, which includes Trinidad and Tobago, of course, to reinforce measures to reduce the spread of dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases. It noted the increased number of suspected and confirmed dengue cases in 2023 and advised member states to take definitive action to minimize cases and to limit deaths. The advice to member states was essentially to place greater emphasis on mosquito control activities in homes and communities. I want to re-emphasize that. The advice was to take the emphasis on mosquito control activities in homes and communities. Now, what did this government do? The Insect Vector Control Division, which is commonly called the IVCD, which many citizens are now familiar with, is directly under the Minister of Health and is tasked with doing these activities, that is, mosquito control, both in the homes and communities. The Ministry of Health has admitted that this outbreak was expected based on the 7 to 10 year cycles attributed to dengue outbreaks. So the ministry knew that this was coming. And therefore the questions that have to be asked are these. What measures were put in place prior to this outbreak to ensure that the country was prepared? Was the IVCD properly resourced with funding, vehicles, chemicals, etc., to ensure that they could adequately meet increased demands for spraying and what is called perifocal work? The other question is, how many cycles of perifocal work and this refers to the quarterly home inspections that some of you will be familiar with, where staff from the IBCD would visit your homes and inspect and so on. And in the old days would leave, a notification that your home was inspected, and they will give you advice, and even citations that the government is now talking about to ensure that you eliminate all the mosquito breeding sites. So the question is, how many cycles of this work has been done over the past 5 years? I am reliably informed that over the last few years, none of this has happened through the Insect Vector Control Department. The other question is really how much spraying was done over the past 5 years. We see the rush now from the government with the spraying and so on, and heavily depending on the regional corporations to assist. And whilst this is fine, it must be noted that it is the government, it is the Ministry of Health that receives the budget allocation to perform this activity. Now, the other issue that the Minister of Health frequently raises is that the issue of overspraying can cause resistance. But I want to ask, and there is a lot of anecdotal evidence from citizens that suggests that only limited spraying has been taking place in recent years across the country. And therefore, the question really has to be asked, how can insecticide resistance develop if spraying is limited and there is no overexposure to chemicals? So I leave that out there in the public domain. And I want to say this morning that the Ministry of Health and the Minister of Health cannot absolve itself and himself from its responsibilities by passing the responsibility for source reduction solely on the population. The state has a tremendous responsibility in this, and I urge the government and I urge the ministry and the minister to live up and take this responsibility very seriously. The other question I want to raise this morning with regards to the dengue outbreak is whether, in fact, we are seeing the true picture. What is the real picture? Is there underreporting of cases? This is very important. Statistics are very important if we are to manage a crisis. We are being told that the confirmed case figures only include cases confirmed by CAFA. While this is important, it is also important that the cases that are confirmed by other sources need to be included. So the question really is, will the private labs be accredited to test for confirmed cases so we can have, reliable figures? And how timely is the collection of data from private labs? When we are told that there are 781 cases as of yesterday, what about the collection of the data from the private labs? I am told that this data is only collected at the end of the month. I stand corrected in this, but let the government tell us this. And what about people who have visited private doctors and tested positive and who have died from dengue? Are these numbers included? So really and truly, what is the real picture? I hope that this government is not playing politics with the numbers instead of acknowledging the extent of the problem so it can be dealt with properly. Today's Express editorial, entitled The Dengue Conundrum, that's in the editorial here, the dengue conundrum, addresses some very pertinent questions with regards to the death rate in the current epidemic and the possible reasons. The editorial noted that between 2001 to 2010, there were 23 deaths, but between June 19 to August 9, 2024, there have been 8 deaths, and is asking the question, why the higher mortality with the lower dengue infection rate? Now, this is also important information for us to have, because if it is that the profile and the epidemiologic profile of persons who are dying from dengue has changed over the years, and different population is now at risk, the population needs to know this. And this, again, is where the public education is important. So as the editorial in today's Express concludes, analyzing all these factors, mortality, infection patterns, attitudes, is crucial to controlling the impact of dengue. The ministry, therefore, needs to engage more public health experts and fewer communication officers. And therefore, there's more public health education efforts that are needed on the ground. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I as a medical practitioner would want to offer some advice to the population. because I truly believe that the education effort by the Ministry of Health really has not done the job it is supposed and intended to do. So I put this out here. Whilst it is important to note that most cases of dengue are mild, there is what you call the classic dengue symptoms in about 10 to 15% of those exposed to the virus. So what are these symptoms? So the symptoms include fever, headaches, and retroorbital pain, which means pain behind the eyes, muscle and joint pains, nausea and vomiting, a rash, itching of the palms and soles, and what are called hemorrhagic manifestations. I just want to emphasize and explain this a bit. It's important for the population and for citizens to understand when they should seek medical care and when they should seek medical care urgently. So the hemorrhagic manifestations would normally speak to bleeding from the skin or bruising of the skin, from the gums. Sometimes you can have blood in the vomit, you can have bleeding from the nose, and you can see blood in the stool and the urine. Now, if one experiences the hemorrhagic manifestations, it does not necessarily mean that you have developed what is called dengue hemorrhagic fever or dengue shock syndrome. And I just want to dwell on that a little bit, because again, it is important for citizens to understand the importance of seeking urgent medical care when complications can arise. So the dengue hemorrhagic fever and the dengue shock syndrome are the complications that, if not treated in a timely and appropriate manner, can lead to deaths. So for the dengue hemorrhagic fever, in addition to the hemorrhagic manifestation, meaning the bleeding, you also have a drop in the platelets. So if you are doing a platelet count and the platelet count drops below 100,000, then that would be a reason for you to seek medical advice and attention. If you have fever, and sometimes the fever can be a previous fever, the fever might drop. So fever, bleeding, low platelet count, and what is called plasma leakage is something that we have to be aware of. So this can be determined in the blood count by certain factors in the blood count. You have a decrease in the white cell count, and you have an increase in something called the hematocrit, suggesting that you're leaking fluid from within your intravascular spaces. Now, the dengue shock syndrome is the one that is to be most feared and has to be treated quickly, urgently, and appropriately if lives are to be saved. So what are we to look out for in terms of the dengue shock syndrome? This is where you have severe abdominal pain in what we call the epigastrium or the stomach area, and you can also have it in the right side over the liver. Where you have persistent vomiting, you can have restlessness or drowsiness, and interestingly and importantly, you can have an abrupt change from fever, where the fever disappears and you can actually go what is called hypothermic, where your temperature drops to below normal levels, and this can be accompanied by prostration and sweating. It is important to note that the most critical period for the development of dengue hemorrhagic fever and dengue shock syndrome is on days 4, 5, and 6. So if you are counting day 1 as the start of your symptoms, it is not to say it cannot develop before day 4 or after day 7, but it is important if you are deteriorating on those days 4, days 5, days 6, to seek urgent medical attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, what is your responsibility? I agree that we should continue all efforts to eliminate the mosquito breeding sites in your homes and your immediate surroundings, which includes the plant pot bases, the vases, the buckets, the used vehicle tires, and so on. Continue to wear your protective clothing, the long clothing. Use the mosquito repellents that have been recommended, those containing DEET, or the lemon eucalyptus. Consider mosquito nets in some situations. And it is important to maintain vigilance in the young, the elderly, pregnant women, those who are immunocompromised, and those with comorbidities. But what is the government's responsibility? And the question really is the government maintaining its responsibility and duties in this situation. I believe that there's still a lot more areas that need to be covered in terms of the spraying. Many more communities are yet to be sprayed. I believe that it is important to make the diagnosis and treatment easier. I noticed that now the government has taken the step to open what I call access centers to make diagnosis easier. This should have happened, implemented weeks ago, in my opinion. And I note that the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Board, Dr. Neil Singh, is in today's newspaper lamenting the fact that patients are waiting 8 to 12 hours to be seen in hospitals. And this is something that needs to be corrected. So I again urge the Minister of Health and the Ministry of Health to ensure that experienced and competent staff at the front lines are there to pick up the dengue hemorrhagic fever and the dengue shock syndrome cases. It's very important that these patients be picked up and admitted for hospital care, as opposed to sometimes you hear the stories of the patients being allowed to go home. And sometimes when they return, it's too late. So I again urge citizens it's better to be safe than sorry in this situation, but it's also important for those at the front line to be able to recognize and admit these patients. And for the government, of course, to provide all resources in terms of early and easy access to the blood tests, the beds, the IV fluids, the platelets, and the other measures that are necessary. So I want to say to the government, give these citizens the best chance of survival. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave dengue for a moment and just go to another issue in the health sector. And I want to keep this alive because I think it's important. And I speak here of the NICU deaths and the PAHO report. And of course, we'll all remember the frightening and worrisome headlines just 3 months ago with this headline. We must not forget this because the parents have not forgotten this, where 7 babies died in 7 days at the NICU of the Port of Spain General Hospital. So, this was due to a confirmed bacterial outbreak. Now, the PAHO investigation highlighted several shortcomings in the area of infection prevention and control at the Port of Spain Hospital, and in fact noted that at the NICU, there was only a 29% compliance to international standards in terms of international best practice, with substandard and poor sanitation practices noted in some 12 areas, including inadequate nursing to patient ratio. And you will recall again, citizens, that the Simangal report highlighted a similar issue in the adult ICUs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Interestingly, a Newsday report of 5th August 2023 highlighted this very problem, with the Trinidad and Tobago Registered Nurses Association, as it was then called, calling upon the government to increase the staff-to-patient ratio across all of the RHAs. And if I might just refer briefly to this article, which is Saturday, 5th August 2023, saying TTRNA President Edie Stewart is saying that the issue of patient-to-staff ratios is a bone of contention throughout all RHAs, and noting that there's a shortage of almost 3,000 nurses in the health sector. And the question really is what the government has done to treat this issue since that time, because now it would appear that this is one of the issues that has come back to haunt us in the health sector. So I also want to quote from a letter which was sent to the Honorable Minister of Health from the TTNNA, so it's now the Trinidad and Tobago National Nursing Association. And this letter is dated 2nd July 2024. And it speaks to reference to what's called a National Health Services Accreditation Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. And in this letter, the TTNNA takes the opportunity to point out to the minister some of the conclusive and startling findings of the PAHO report. So this organization is reminding the minister of the shortcomings. And they list several shortcomings here. The inadequate ratio of nursing professionals to patient ratio is present consistently. They talk about the appropriate bed spacing is not present. The policies and procedures for prevention of surgical site wound infection in the obstetrics theater are not done. Active surveillance for monthly hospital-associated and bloodstream infections is not conducted. External performance evaluation is not performed. Internal quality assessment is not performed. And there are no policies in place nor procedures for high-level disinfection for equipment such as laryngoscopes. Policies and procedures for use of multi-dose medications and NICU need to be developed. And there is a lack of implementation of timely contact precautions for patients affected by the multi-drug resistant organisms. So this letter is dated 2nd July, just over a month ago, and it would seem that despite the assurances from the Minister of Health that many, even all of the recommendations in the PAHO report have already been dealt with, here the TTNA is saying differently. So again, I call upon the government, I call upon the Minister to inform the population as to whether and how many of these recommendations, where we are with regards to the state of the recommendations for the improvement of the NICU at the Port of Spain, and indeed improvement of NICU at all of the public institutions in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, at this time, we note that the parents of these infants, and again take the opportunity to express our condolences on behalf of the United National Congress and the leader of the opposition, express our condolences to these mothers who have lost their loved ones. And of course, to ask the government to treat with this in a timely manner. So, ladies and gentlemen, the TTRNA is calling for, in this letter is also calling for a National Health Services Accreditation Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. This is something that was brought to the Parliament in 2013 under the People's Partnership Government. And we are saying today that the United National Congress will support any measure, any reasonable measure designed to ensure that citizens receive adequate, appropriate, and timely health care. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, members of the media, the PNM government is today entering its 10th year with a failed record in healthcare. A fully equipped 230-bed hospital in Couva, ready to serve this nation since 2015, and which saved many lives during the COVID-19 pandemic, now remains in limbo. So we have 230 beds available at the Couva Hospital, and yet we are hearing about patients waiting in the corridors of the other hospitals for beds. This surely cannot be something that the population could or should accept easily. New hospitals in Point Fortin and Arima remain underutilized due to staffing shortages and lack of resources, and this is happening whilst hundreds of fully registered doctors are without jobs. This government has done little to stem the flow of qualified nurses from Trinidad and Tobago by offering them adequate incentives, or indeed to step up the effort to train new nurses. People of the southern and southwestern areas with heart conditions are disadvantaged because of the failure of this Minister of Health to build a cardiac catheterization laboratory at the San Fernando General Hospital. Instead, the Minister's priorities seem to be a car park at the San Fernando General Hospital and an overpriced Ministry of Health Administration building in Port of Spain, which ironically has no place for the Insect Vector Control Division, and a division which you would expect, would be provided with proper resources and accommodation. So poor governance, poor management, and a lack of vision have been the hallmark of this administration in the health sector. It would be a folly to believe that this government can improve anything in the health sector if by some miracle they were returned to power. We have many plans, programs, and policies designed to bring relief to the many suffering citizens in the healthcare sector. The leader of the opposition will continue to share these in the upcoming budget debate and at our various public meetings. We urge citizens to stay hopeful and focused and to avoid the PNM when the time comes, just as you must avoid the mosquitoes at this time if you and your children are to see a brighter future in the healthcare sector and a better Trinidad and Tobago. As I close, ladies and gentlemen, I have to return to the constituency of Faizabad and again to invite the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government and the Minister of Works and Transport to visit the 30 marooned residents of the St. John's Branch Trace who have now been suffering for over a month and who are saying that the government has abandoned them. I invite the government to prove these residents wrong. I ask the government to show these tax-paying citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that no geographical discrimination is taking place in the UNC Health constituency. I echo the cries of the residents, fix the bridge now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've raised some of the issues in the health sector, and I want to thank you for listening to us this morning. I will remain open for questions. At this point in time, I want to invite my colleague, the very hardworking, the champion of the people, and very strong voice in the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Senator Wade Mark. Senator Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bodoe, for enlightening the nation on this issue of dengue and how it has been affecting the people of our nation. So thank you very much, Dr. Bodoe. And before I can get into the meat of my contribution this morning, I would like, on behalf of the political leader of our great and glorious party, to extend to the bereaved family and friends, as well as associates of the late and great Dr. Emmanuel Hossein, who passed away a few days ago. Dr. Hossein, as you all recalled, was the Minister of Health in the NAR government between 1986 to 1991. He was also the MP for the constituency of Tunapuna. His funeral service will be held sometime on Friday of this week, and we would like to indicate that he fought very hard and long for the physically challenged in our nation, and we would like to extend to his family once again our heartfelt condolences on Dr. Emmanuel's passing, Dr. Emmanuel Hossein's passing. May his soul rest in perpetual peace and rise in glory. Now, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have two issues I'd like to address on behalf of the party. One deals with the dreaded, draconian property tax. And the second one deals with the foreign exchange leakage brought about by the government's insensitive, reckless, and irresponsible decision back in 2018 to shut down, to close economy in the southern belt. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing.
Good.
Testing.
Yes. Good.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, the two issues, and first of all, I'd like to apologize for the technical glitch that we experienced a short while ago, but we will now continue our media briefing at this time. There are two issues that we would like to address this morning. The first is the draconian and dreaded property tax. And of course, the second deals with the Paria fuel importation scandal that is causing endless, scarce foreign exchange to go into that particular area of activity, which is negatively impacting on the overall society. That is the availability and accessibility of foreign exchange by individuals, small, micro, and medium-sized enterprises. No, so now that let's look rather at the property tax. First of all, the property tax is unfair. Let us make that very clear. It is unfair. Secondly, it is inequitable. Thirdly, it is discriminatory. Fourthly, it is arbitrary. There is a certain insensitivity as it relates to its application and implementation. It is draconian, ladies and gentlemen. In the United States of America, before they became independent from Britain, they fought a battle. And you know what that battle was about, ladies and gentlemen? Brothers and sisters? The people of the Americas, the United States of America, told Britain there can be no taxation without representation. And a full-blown revolution took place in the United States, resulting in the United States of America gaining its own independence in 1776. In Trinidad and Tobago, the citizens of this country are crying and demanding that the government, this corrupt, evil, and wicked government, halt, discontinue, stop the property tax, stop the implementation of the property tax. That is what we are demanding on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of ordinary people who cannot pay that draconian and dreaded property tax. We gave the people this morning the undertaking, the commitment, the assurance that the United National Congress, upon being voted into office at the next general election, shall repeal the Property Tax Act and the Valuation of Land Act, and have them replaced by what we had before. Of course, there will be consultation with you, the people. But this current tax that you are receiving in your mailboxes via assessment notices from the Board of Inland Revenue to pay some ridiculously high sums of money for some fictional rental value for your property, which you are not renting, and you are not receiving this fictional rental value. Imagine they are telling some of our citizens that they are receiving, based on this annual rental value, a monthly rental value for your property of $20,000, of $22,000, of $25,000. You are not receiving that. And they are taking decisions on the basis of that value that they have assessed for your property. I was shocked to receive from a friend of mine a notice received by the Board of Inland Revenue saying that his annual rental value is $260-something thousand. And he's being called upon to pay some $5,500 on or before the 15th of September. And if you fail to pay on the 15th of September or by the 15th of September, they write to you, the government is writing to you, threatening you to impose penalties and interest charges that will continue to accumulate and mount if you fail to meet your property tax that they have imposed on you. So there's now a choice. There's now what is called a conundrum facing citizens, particularly retirees and pensioners. And this so-called deferment is a waste of time. You know that. It goes up to 5 years, and you still have to pay it. So that is nothing of value to the elderly and to those who are unable to pay, because you have to pay. And if you happen to die and I take over the property, I have to pay for you. That is the insensitivity of this particular dreaded property tax. It is patently unfair. It is flawed. The entire process is flawed. How did they arrive at your annual rental value? No one has told you. No one has shared that with the population. All you get is a notice from the Commissioner of Valuations informing you what they have estimated the annual rental value of your property. But who did those valuations? We don't have their names. We don't have their professions. Are any of these people chartered, licensed, chartered surveyors that ought to be measuring and valuing your property? No. We are hearing unqualified persons are actually valuing your property. And they are imposing all kinds of fictional numbers and values on your property. And they are calling on you and me and the population to pay. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you are aware of the process. And that is why it is patently unfair. And it is generating significant stress and financial strain on the people. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, that these people decided upon themselves to estimate your annual rental value for your property? You don't know how they arrived at it. You receive it in your mailbox. You have 30 days or a period of time to object. But who are you objecting to? the same commissioner of valuations that sent unprofessional people to value your property, you have to write to the commissioner of valuation to record your objections. It is himself to himself. Within a 9-month period, he is supposed to respond to you. But in responding to you, if he does, he changes nothing. Your fictional valuation then travels a journey to the Board of Inland Revenue. And they then assess that valuation and then post to you an assessment notice telling you that you have to pay $6,000, $7,000, $5,000, $4,000, $8,000 by the 15th of September, or else penalties, interest, levying on your property. And you know what? If you are still unable to pay within 5 years, Dr. Rowley and the cabinet will seize your home. You want me to repeat it? After 5 years under Section 41 of the Property Tax Act, Dr. Rowley and the cabinet will seize your home, take your home from you and your family, because you have been unable to pay the draconian and dreaded property tax. You see the crushing oppression that this evil and cruel and brutal administration has imposed on you and me and the population? And you know, these modern day oppressors, we just celebrated emancipation a few days ago, August the 1st. But ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we have some modern slave owners, slave masters in our nation, led by Dr. Rowley and the PNM. They are the modern slave owners and slave drivers and slave masters in this nation. They don't care. So they send you valuation. Then they send you assessment notices. They give you no increases, substantial increases in your salaries and your wages. The cost of living is going through the roof. They give you a $3.50 increase in the minimum wages, or thereabouts. How are you going to live? How are you going to survive? And they are saying everybody must pay the tax. You know what is even more alarming and troubling, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? The government in Act 5 of 2018, which is the Valuation of Land Amendment Act, has in that act the establishment of a valuation tribunal comprising of 5 persons, all essentially agents of Dr. Rowley and his cabinet. So there's no independence. There's no fairness. One is appointed by the president, who is appointed by the prime minister through majority on the advice of the chief justice. But the government, that is the cabinet, can remove that person for misbehavior in public office. And then the 4 others that make up the 5 with the chairman are all appointed by Dr. Rowley and his cabinet. So there's a party group. That's a PNM party branch that they have established, that you and me and others have to go to plea and to make a case against the ridiculously high valuations they have put onto our property. So what do you expect? Is there going to be justice there? Will a PNM branch, a PNM group appointed by the cabinet give you justice? No, they will not give you justice. They will agree to everything that you have received from the Valuation Commissioner and the Board of Inland Revenue. But you know what is even more egregious? This criminal gang that is running Trinidad and Tobago today, they are yet to establish and fully operationalize the Valuation Tribunal, which is their party group, to oppress you. So you have nobody to go to. You have to go to the Commissioner of Valuation, who is working for the Minister of Finance. You have to go to the Board of Inland Revenue, under the control of the Minister of Finance, himself to himself. Then you have to go to their party group, called the Valuation Tribunal. They are yet to establish it. If you look at the valuation notice you receive and the Board of Inland Revenue assessment notice that you receive in your mailbox, there are 10 grounds for objections behind that notice. 6 of those grounds relate to something called the valuation roll. You want me to repeat that? The valuation roll. That is the database that contains every residential property owner and details of everything. Floor space, the value of your property, the square feet or area of each room, how they arrive at it, what is the value of your property, what taxes you have to pay, so I can compare the taxes they're asking me to pay and the taxes they're asking John Brown to pay, even though you have the same size property as me. But they're asking me to pay $6,000, but they're asking John Brown to pay $3,000. But you know what? They're hiding that from you. They're hiding that from me. They're hiding that from us. So we have no access to the valuation roll. That is for Rowley and Imbert and his friends and family. That ought to be a public database that any member of the public and any persons who property is being valued by the Commissioner of Valuation and assessed by the Board of Inland Revenue, you must have access to. But you know what these criminals have done? They have put roadblocks. They have put obstacles in the path of you and me. Is oppression. They are bleeding us. They want blood out of stone. That is what they want. You have to decide if you want that. You have to decide if you're going to take that. Brothers and sisters, what we appeal to you to do is to lodge your objections to the Board of Inland Revenue. Lodge your objections. Everyone who receives these assessment notices and they're unfair, lodge your objections. Write to them and lodge your objections. Time longer than twine. Rowley has exactly 12 more months to live politically. 12 more months to live politically. You will have your say shortly. You will have your day. I am appealing to every member of the public, every citizen 18 years and over. The time will come when these evil wrongdoers, this brotherhood of wrongdoers called the PNM, will come knocking on your doors. We understand right now they are looking to call a snap election at sometime at the end of November. That is what we are being told. That is what Tong is saying. But whether they call it at the end of November, the end of December, in January, it doesn't matter. When the time comes, riot with its index finger. Riot with its index finger. And put your X next to the rising sun. And vote for the United National Congress. Your only hope, your only solution for emancipation, genuine emancipation and salvation lies with the United National Congress. So you have a duty, a responsibility to protect your family, protect your children, protect your village, protect your community, and protect your country. By not supporting this criminal gang called the PNM when they come knocking on your doors for your property tax. You'll remind them of their oppression against you. The UNC will repeal that dreaded and draconian Property Tax Act and the Valuation of Land Act. Look, there are 4 types or categories of land for purposes of the property tax. There's residential, there's commercial, there's industrial, and there's agricultural. You know this rich man government, this big man government, this elitist government led by Rowley, Keith Rowley, and his gang, they only targeted you. 400,000 residential property owners have been captured, incarcerated, imprisoned, and kidnapped by this government. And they have no justice whatsoever. They cannot appeal to the Commission of Valuation. Here again, you no response. They cannot appeal to the Board of Inland Revenue. No response. They block you. They have failed to give you access to the valuation roll so you can get data to make your case, even if you want to go to the High Court. They have failed to establish the Valuation Tribunal, which is a PNM party group. No independence, no impartiality, because Rowley appointed all of them. So where is the justice? Where is the justice? When your backs are against the wall, you must fight. You have to struggle. And you have to remove this bunch of criminals when they come to you shortly for your votes. And there's a provision, as I told you, in the legislation that gives Dr. Rowley and his cabinet the right to take over your property, to seize your property if you are unable to pay their dreaded property tax. So their real objective is to bring back slavery, with them being the masters, the new slave masters, and we being the new set of slaves. But that on God's face, Dr. Rowley, you will never see. So this is what we are faced with, brothers and sisters, with the property tax. We are in solidarity with the 400,000 people. But you know what is even worse? The gremlin from Maraval, known as the Minister of Finance, he came to the Parliament in 2023, amended the Valuation of Land Act. To do what? Reduce the number for the valuation roll from 400,000 to 200,000. So instead of going after 400,000 to pay residential property tax, he reduced it to 50%. So only 200,000 people are receiving assessment notices. You see the inequity that I spoke to you about? You understand the inequity and the poor and unequal treatment which we are all entitled to in terms of equality of treatment under the Constitution? We are not receiving it. There are over 50,000 commercial businesses in this country. He eased them up. No property tax for them. Property tax for you. Property tax for me. Property tax for granny. Property tax for the retiree. Property tax for the pensioner. And the minimum wage worker who might be squatting. But nothing for their big Sawati friends and financiers who own commercial property. All the industrialists, 3,000, 4,000 of them, 4,000 of them exempted. Them are paying no property tax. It's you and I. And their big agricultural friends, them get away too. So it's only you and I, we are fools. He takes us for fools, brothers and sisters. That is why he has us, he holds us, I should say, in utter contempt and contumely. Well, we have a message for him. Bring on the elections. You want to have it in November, Dr. Rowley? Bring on the elections in November. And let the people take you on. Let us have a head-on battle with this property tax that you have imposed on the population of this nation. They have weaponized, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they have weaponized the property tax against the people of this country. What is the difference between an extortionist operating out of St. Augustine or now in Pointe-à-Pierre or in Tunapuna, putting a gun to your head and telling you, give me all your jewels, give me all your valuables, and pay me $100,000 a year or a month. Otherwise, I'll kill you, your entire family, and destroy your property. And Dr. Rowley and the gang running the cabinet, they have put a gun to the heads of the people and telling them if they don't pay the property tax, they will seize your property, they will impose penalties and interest, and they will levy on your property. Otherwise, they will pull the trigger. That is extortion. The Rowley government is an extortionist government. They are no different from the criminals who are extorting from business people throughout this country. That is what is going on here. It cannot continue. We have a few more days before general elections. And we call on the people, the UNC, our leader, who will be our next prime minister. The party is calling on the people to gird your loins, prepare for battle, because there's a war, a political war ahead of us that we must win. It's a life and death struggle that we must win. People have had enough of this regime, and they have to go. Rowley and his gang must go for Trinidad and Tobago to live. Rowley and the gang of the PNM must die. The PNM must go for democracy to live in this country. The PNM must die because they are blocking democracy in this nation. And we are standing in the gap between their authoritarianism, their dictatorship, and the upholding of our democratic values, norms, ethics, and principles. It is the UNC. Without the UNC, he would have already had us down the road of Haiti and Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. And I is his partner. His real master is not the people of Trinidad and Tobago. His boss is the president of Venezuela. He takes orders from him, as far as I am concerned, and I'm advised. Brothers and sisters, the next matter I want to deal with is the Paria fuel crisis. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, Paria came into being because an unpatriotic, anti-nationalist, anti-people, anti-working class, anti-trade union, anti-labor political leader and prime minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, shut down Petrotrin, closed down Petrotrin, putting tens of thousands of people, workers, on the breadline, shutting down an entire community in South Trinidad, destroying thousands of small businesses in South Trinidad. Not one day did the government give a subvention to Petrotrin. Not one day. Petrotrin was an earner of foreign exchange. Paria is a user of foreign exchange. That is what we are faced with here. You would have read in the Express, I think it was Friday, that in 3 short months, 3 short months, Paria Fuel Trading Company spent $430 million to import refined fuel products. Brothers and sisters, when Petrotrin was up and running, it brought in foreign exchange because we sold refined products to our regional partners and our extra-regional partners. The reverse has now taken place. We are importing, and there's a leakage of foreign exchange. Is that sustainable? How long can we go on with this? I have a table that I call on Cleveland to just put up for us, which came from the central bank, showing how the auctioneers and authorized dealers have been allocating our foreign exchange over the period, I think, 2020 to 2022 or thereabout. If you look at that table. The central bank said that the third largest user of our foreign exchange is the category, you see, they call energy companies. It's energy companies, you know. It's one company. The company name is Paria Fuel Trading Company. They are the third largest user. I know who's the largest user from what you're seeing there? Retail and distribution. They are the largest users of our foreign exchange in Trinidad and Tobago. Look at individuals, you and me. When I go to the bank and I have to get some money to travel, I'm given $200, $150. I have to beg here and there to get money to travel. But look at what is happening with the automobile industry. The Massey, Toyota. All these companies that are importing cars, Neil and Massey, Toyota, etc., importing cars here. You could see the allocation here, over 200 million. So brothers and sisters, what I'm saying to you is that we have done some analysis. And I asked Cleveland to put up the second table where we are going to show you, since this Prime Minister, this what I call leader of the Brotherhood of Wrongdoers, shut down Petrotrin in November of 2018, look what has happened. Look at the data, look at the figures, brothers and sisters, so you will understand what is taking place under Paria Fuel Trading Company. You know what the data is telling you there? Look at it. From December the 1st, 2018 to the 30th of September 2019, you and I, and always remember, comrades, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the foreign exchange that we have in this country belong to you, belong to me, belong to the people. It does not belong to a clique or a gang or a small elite. It belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are the owners of the foreign exchange, but we don't get it because Rowley and his gang distribute through the central bank all the foreign exchange to their friends and financiers. That is what they do. They have a advantage over all of us. So what do we see? We see, brothers and sisters, from 2018 to September 2019, $997 million in fuel. That's $1 billion we spent in a few months. Just about 10 months. Then from October 2019 to the 30th of September 2020, we spent, brothers and sisters, $884 million on the importation of refined fuel products. Then from the 1st of October 2020 to the 30th of September 2021, we spent $1,046,000,000 US dollars on the importation of refined fuel products. That is what Rowley caused when he shut down. When he shut down our flagship enterprise called Petrotrin. That is what he did. Here come, brothers and sisters, October 21 to September 22. That was the year of the Ukraine war. Look at the price. Kirk, we are price takers. Look at the insecurity in terms of energy. If there is a major world war, we will have no fuel in this country because we do not produce and refine our own fuel. We spent $2 billion. You understand what I'm saying to you? I am saying that we spent $1,996,000,000 US dollars, Dr. Bodoe. That is $2 billion US dollars we spent on the importation of refined fuel products, thanks to Dr. Rowley and his gang. And then we come now to October 2022 to September 2023. We spent $1.389, round it off to $1.4 billion US dollars in the importation of refined fuel products into our country. That is what happened. And then in October 2023 to the 30th of June 2024, we spent in foreign exchange US dollars $1.291 billion US to import refined fuel products. That is what we spent. You know what is the grand total, Dr. Bodoe? In 6 years, we spent $7.6 billion US dollars in the importation of refined fuel products. Our interim stabilization fund, which was later transformed into the Heritage Stabilization Fund, contains just under $5.9 billion. With the recent crash on the international stock market, I am sure that is now down from 5.9 to maybe 5.5 or less. The experts will have to tell us what hit did the HSF take when the crash took place on the international stock market all over the world, including America. But you know what? It took us 24 years, Kirk. 24 years to save, Dr. Bodoe, $5.9 billion US dollars in our Heritage and Stabilization Fund. But it took us 6 years to spend $7.6 billion US dollars to import refined fuel products. That is almost 56 billion TT dollars that we have spent in 6 years to import refined fuel products. That is where we are. That is as a result of Dr. Rowley's mismanagement, incompetence, wastage, squandermania, grand corruption in this nation. And we are hearing that they are about to remove the subsidy on LPG or cooking gas. So we are calling on Dr. Rowley and his Gary Sobers of the cabinet want Stuart Young to tell Trinidad and Tobago if the government is about to remove the subsidy on LPG or cooking gas, because that is what we are getting from reliable sources. And we want the government to confirm or deny that. Is the government seeking to increase the price of cooking gas for the poor people in Trinidad and Tobago? Because we know they're only waiting for election to come and go. And if we take God out of our thoughts and we put that fella anywhere near the treasury, again, electricity going up fourfolds for the ordinary people. Water rate going up fourfolds for the ordinary people. That is what we are dealing with. So, brothers and sisters, it is important for us to understand that this leakage in our foreign exchange that is causing no end of problems for the people is as a result. We have to bolt this situation to the chest of Dr. Rowley and his criminal gang called the PNM for the foreign exchange crisis that we are facing. They have not increased oil production. It has crashed to 50,000 or 55,000 barrels a day. Natural gas is now about 2.4, 2.5 billion a day. And it is dipping and dipping. So we have a crisis in foreign exchange, and I'm saying the government has failed to diversify our economy, and they have failed to bring about what we call, brothers and sisters, new streams of revenues to our country. And that is why they are bleeding our country and our people to death, brothers and sisters, as it relates to this property tax that they are seeking to impose on us. So, brothers and sisters, as I bring my contribution to a close, I want to leave this with you. And I want to speak slowly before I close. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, today marks 9 years and 1 day that the PNM government has been in office. Today marks the first day of their final year in office. It has been reported that the PNM intends to come to you very shortly, we understand by the end of November, to ask you, the citizens, and to ask for a third continuous term of 15 straight years in office. But as we start this final year of this PNM, brothers and sisters, this PNM government's term, I would like you to reflect on these questions. 1, after 9 years and 1 day of PNM continuous rule, there have been over 4,000 murders, mostly of young citizens, in our republic. Today, we are 370 murders, with the prediction that we will surpass last year's murder rate. The question is, if after 9 straight years, nothing has changed, how will keeping the PNM in office for even one more day, change that. The second question, if after 9 years and 1 day of continuous PNM rule, the detection rate for murder is 13 for every 100 murders, how will keeping the PNM in office for one more day change that? The third question, if after 9 years and 1 day of continuous PNM rule, today the newspapers are reporting on the out-of-control extortion of businesses all over the country, how will one more day of the PNM change that? The fourth question, if after 9 years and 1 day you are unemployed, you are underemployed, you are unskilled, with a PNM government in office for 9 straight years and 1 day, how will keeping the PNM in office for even one more day change that? And the final question, if after 9 years and 1 day of PNM rule, we cannot find forex, that is foreign exchange, to purchase anything, how can keeping the PNM in office for one more day change that? Brothers and sisters, we know, each and every one of us know, we are not better off under this lazy, corrupt, unproductive, and incompetent government. Change sometimes is not easy, but in this instance, it is the only choice, because no government on earth has worked so hard to destroy any country as this criminal band called the PNM has done. Brothers and sisters, I leave this with you, because if the PNM is planning to hold a snap election in November, you have to gird your loins. Prepare for a political war against this criminal group so that our country can breathe, can exhale once more. After a long, treacherous, desolate, dark night, morning will come. As the psalmist David tells us in the good book, weeping may endure it for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Brothers and sisters, I will pause at this time, invite my colleague to join me here at the rostrum to entertain any questions you may wish to put to us at this time arising out of our press conference. We are now open to any questions that you may wish to put to us at this time.
Thank you, Senator Mark and Dr. Bodoe. The first question I have is for Dr. Bodoe, and it is this. Given the government's failures in handling COVID and infant mortality, and the recommendations of the relevant reports, and the common threads in the government's failures, what can we do to ensure that the government takes public health seriously?
Well, you know, I don't mean to be facetious about this, but after 9 years of mismanagement in the health sector, it is it is very unlikely that this government has the capacity or the capability of doing anything to deal with these issues in the public health sector. But more than that, one has to look at the issue of the Seamungal report and ask how many of those recommendations have been implemented. One has to look at the issue of the PAHO report and ask what has been done. And to note, of course, that the Seamungal report spoke to an NCD debt. So we have a number of cases of non-communicable diseases, and yet we have the irony of those who are able to treat with us, the doctors being unemployed, shortage of nurses. I want to make it abundantly clear that we have majority of our doctors and nurses and other healthcare personnel are very hardworking individuals and have the interests of their patients at heart, but they have been stymied over the last 9 years by a lack of vision and by a lack direction, and of course by the mismanagement that pervades within the health sector. And therefore the blame has to be placed squarely at the feet of the government and the Minister of Health. And really and truly, the only way that public health will be addressed in a meaningful way is when this government gets out of the way and there is a new government in place. That will be my short answer.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is for Senator Mark. The PSA recently sent out a press release based on a Freedom of Information request, and they titled it, "The Government's Calculated Deception of FOIA Reveals No Organizational Structure, No Human Resource Policy, No Job Descriptions, and No Salary Ranges in Enforcement Division at the TTRA." How does this affect the collection of the property tax?
I am not surprised, and nobody should be surprised. This government conduct and behavior is typical and equivalent to that of a drug addict. They are just concerned with selling out or doing everything to just get their hands on the people's purse, money. So it is not surprising that there is no infrastructure, there is no organizational structure in place for the TTRA. It is the same playbook at work in the valuation of land and property tax infrastructure, meaning that they gave an undertaking publicly that they will establish a valuation tribunal, which, as I told the citizens earlier on, is equivalent to a party group, because all the personnel, I would say almost 90% of the personnel are appointed by the cabinet. So we are not surprised that there are no systems in place to effect any operational transformation of the TTRA. And that is why the TTRA is not in a position under law to send out any notices to household persons, or households, I should say. It is coming directly from the Board of Inland Revenue. That is what is going on. So I don't think anybody should be surprised. This is a government that operates in a slipshod manner. They don't care. All they are concerned about is getting into your pocket at any cost to extract what you have so that they can continue to engage in wasteful expenditure, squandermania, grand-scale corruption. So I am not surprised, based on what you have said, Kirk, that the FOIA has revealed almost a complete absence of any organizational structure within the TTRA to give effect to that body becoming fully operationalized. I'm not surprised.
Yes, and for Dr. Bodoe, I have one more question. Can you address the questions that the Minister of Health put to PAHO and how this affects the whole inquiry about the deaths at the NICU of the babies?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this is that, you know, PAHO is a well-recognized regional body. The team that was invited and sent by PAHO comprised experts in different areas. And the report, of course, would have been based on scientific information and evidence. So one has to wonder what further questions are being asked of PAHO. You would think that the Minister of Health, you know, would, with speed and haste, provide the necessary resources and make the necessary changes to implement these recommendations. So I am really at a loss to understand what further information, what further questions need to be answered. I think the report itself is very clear. And again, I would want to call upon the Minister of Health to provide the resources and do what is necessary. The evidence is there in the PAHO report. There are shortcomings that were found in the system, and for the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, for the benefit of all pregnant women, for the benefit of those who look and depend upon the public health facilities to look after not only the elderly and the infirm, but the very young ones. I call upon the government to provide the resources to implement these recommendations. I don't think that any further answers or questions are necessary or required to do what has to be done.
Before, if there are no further questions, before bringing our media briefing to a close, I just want to indicate to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I read somewhere today a columnist writing in one of the daily newspapers today, in which he sought to equate our political leader with that of President Joe Biden. I suspect he was referring to the decision of President Biden to step down, he being 81 years or thereabout. I have no problem with age, that's a number, but he took the decision, voluntarily of course, to go. I say voluntarily, he had to finally take that decision, even though many people were seeking to influence him to do that. But I just don't understand this columnist who is attempting to equate the honorable leader of the United National Congress with that of President Biden. Why doesn't that columnist spend a little more time in focusing on the Prime Minister who has destroyed this country, who has capsized this nation upside down, who has breached and violated our Constitution, who has mercilessly crushed the dreams, hopes, and aspirations of our people? Why is he spending time on trying to convince himself that our leader should follow what? In the steps of Biden? No, Mr. Columnist. Our leader was properly and soundly and overwhelmingly elected to be the leader of our great and glorious party. She has the overwhelming support of our party, its membership, and I dare say the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we have no doubt, apart from this columnist who might be singing for his supper, I don't know, maybe that is what he's doing. Maybe he should answer that question, whether he's singing for his supper. Why don't you pay attention to Rowley? Why are you paying attention to the UNC and to our leader? No. I want to put it on record that the United National Congress fully endorses and supports our leader. We are working to ensure victory whenever the PNM calls the election. And all these agents of the PNM who pose as independent journalists, or columnists, I should say, they should really declare their interests and their hands so that everybody will see and know. If you are a PNM operative, you should tell the country you are a PNM operative, rather than give the impression that you are operating independently. So we reject completely that assertion made by this columnist, which I read sometime today, equating our leader, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, with that of President Joe Biden. There's no equivalent whatsoever. So we look forward to our leader continuing to lead this great party to victory whenever the next general elections are called in this country. And we believe that the people will allow good sense to prevail and elect the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar as the next Prime Minister of our great and glorious party and, of course, Republic. So we look forward to Dr. Rowley declaring the date for elections sooner rather than later, so that the people, as I said earlier, can get a chance to exhale and to breathe. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the UNC, on behalf of the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, on behalf of the large membership of our great party, we'd like to thank you. We'd like to thank the viewers. We'd like to thank all of the people who are viewing this press conference, this media briefing on the World Wide Web. We'd like to thank you for viewing. We'd like to thank you for continuing to have faith and confidence in our leadership, in our membership, in our party, in our political leader. And we look forward to you joining us as we prepare for political war in the coming weeks, if not days, against this outgoing government led by Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. So we say to you, good evening or good afternoon. Have a safe journey to your respective destination. And thank you for being part of our regular Sunday media briefing. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We stand united in the belief that if you empower community, the community empowers the country.
We are the party that gave every child a secondary school education since 2001.
By building more schools in 11 years than others did in 40. We believe that no child,
Rich or poor, should be left behind.
which is why we give every Form 1 student a laptop to expand their minds and their dreams.
We are the party that put police cars back on the streets.
And gave the police a $1,000 bonus because we believe that we should support the persons who are protecting you.
We are the party that reduced the murder rate to its lowest in 14 years. We expanded GATE, stopped the property tax, and increased maternity leave.
We are the party that invested in you and your community by investing in schools, community centers, lighted parks, 24-hour health centers, and the most extensive road repair program in decades.
We believe that education is always a solution and that no one should have to pick between sending their child to school or buying food.
We are the party that works for you. We are the first responders in every situation, working to deliver a better standard of living for you and your family.
And most importantly, we have confidence in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not a campaign, it's a movement based on building communities and strengthening families.
Come out and join us, and together we will get the nation working and moving again. Our children will once again have access to GATE and technology.
We will improve healthcare.
By cutting the time it takes to see a doctor in an emergency, we will establish a senior citizen unit in every major hospital and staff the hospital with the doctors and nurses you need to create a first-class healthcare system. We will focus on creating high-paying jobs, fixing our laws to remove red tape, and ensuring that you and your family are safer. We will reduce corporate taxes to jumpstart the economy, create a special investment zone along the East-West corridor, and work with entrepreneurs to build a digital economy. This is an investment in your community to move the nation forward and get TNT working again.
Whether you are from 4th Street in Barataria to Railway Road in Dow Village, from Green Street in Tunapuna to Clark Road in Debe, from La Hoqueta to Moruga, from Mayaro to Scarborough, we are one people with the same dreams of a better tomorrow. And when we stand together, we win together. We are UNC and proud.
Everybody now, let's go!